Rin had trained for many years in a small town surrounded by dry hills and narrow roads. People knew him as the man with the black belt and the loud voice. He walked with pride and believed his skills made him higher than others. Every morning he practiced alone and told himself that no one could stand in his way. He believed respect was something taken by strength and not earned by behavior. The town often spoke about Rin with mixed feelings. Some admired his discipline and long hours of practice. Others felt uneasy because his confidence often turned into disrespect. Rin did not notice these feelings because he only listened to praise. He thought fear in others was the same as respect. One day, a royal ceremony was announced near the old palace. The palace stood quiet for years and only opened for special events. People from nearby villages came to watch the guards and the banners. Music played softly and the crowd stayed behind marked paths. Royal guards stood still in clean uniforms with calm eyes. Rin arrived late and pushed through the people without care. He felt the ceremony was too slow and too strict. Rules annoyed him because he believed rules were for weaker people. He wanted to stand closer and show that he was different. His black belt felt like a shield that protected his pride. As Rin moved forward, a guard stepped in front of him. The guard was named Arun and his face showed no anger. Arun raised a hand and calmly asked Rin to stay behind the line. His voice was quiet but firm and carried authority. Rin felt insulted because no one had stopped him before. In Rin's mind, the guard was just another man in uniform. He believed skill mattered more than position or duty. The crowd around them grew silent as they noticed the tension. Rin's chest filled with heat and false confidence. He decided to prove himself in front of everyone. Without thinking of the place or the people, Rin moved fast. He lifted his leg and struck toward the guard. In his mind, this action would bring fear and control. He believed the guard would fall and the crowd would step back. Rin believed this moment would seal his image as untouchable. The kick landed, but the result was not what Rin imagined. Arun shifted slightly and absorbed the force with control. He did not fall, and he did not react with anger. The sound echoed softly and then faded into silence. Time seemed to slow as everyone watched closely. Rin stood there waiting for a reaction that never came. Arun remained standing and steady on his feet. His eyes were calm and focused without hatred. The guard posture showed balance and restraint. This calm response confused Rin deeply. Around them, the other guards did not rush forward. They stayed in place and observed with discipline. The crowd felt the weight of the moment and held their breath. Rin mistook this silence for fear and approval. He straightened his back and lifted his chin proudly. Rin believed he had crossed a line and nothing happened. This belief fed his pride even more. He thought the guard was weak or afraid to respond. He smiled slightly and waited for applause that never came. Instead, the silence grew heavier. Arun took one slow step back and adjusted his stance. His movement was controlled and respectful. He did not touch Rin and did not raise his voice. His calm made the situation more serious. Rin felt a strange unease but ignored it quickly. In Rin's mind, strength meant action and loud response. He did not understand the power of restraint. He believed control came from striking first. This belief was built over years of unchecked confidence. Now that belief stood in a place where it did not belong. The palace walls stood tall behind the guards. They had seen many moments of pride and downfall. The ceremony paused without any order being spoken. Everyone waited for the next move. Rin still believed he was in control. Arun looked at Rin as if measuring his character. There was no threat in his expression. Only awareness and responsibility filled his eyes. This look made Rin shift slightly in discomfort. He felt seen in a way he never experienced before. Rin laughed softly to hide his unease. He told himself that nothing could happen to him. He believed his belt and training made him above consequences. This belief blinded him to the truth of the moment. The truth waited patiently in the quiet space between them. The crowd did not cheer or shout. They sensed that something important was unfolding. Children were pulled closer to their parents. Elders watched with serious faces. Everyone understood that respect was being tested. Rin took a small step forward with careless confidence. Arun did not move but remained alert. The air felt tight and heavy. This moment marked the beginning of a lesson. Rin did not know that his assumption would soon be challenged. Rin's heart beat fast, but he refused to show fear to anyone in the crowd. He believed that fear would make him look weak and unworthy. Arun stood like a mountain, steady and calm in his place. Rin thought that skill alone could decide the moment. He did not see the weight of responsibility that rested on the guards' shoulders. The sun shone brightly above the palace and reflected off the guards' uniforms. Rin noticed the shine but ignored it because he wanted attention. He stepped closer to Arun and raised his chin with pride. The guard did not flinch or respond with anger. The calmness confused Rin, and his mind raced for a new move. Around them the crowd whispered softly among themselves. Some were impressed by Rin's skill, and some felt worried about his actions. No one knew exactly what would happen next. The palace walls seemed taller and more serious in that quiet moment. Even the birds in the sky moved slowly, as if sensing the tension below. Rin believed the silence meant victory. He smiled slightly and lifted his arms in a small gesture of pride. Arun did not move or react but kept his eyes on Rin. The guard's posture showed patience and awareness. This patience made Rin feel a strange mix of pride and doubt. Rin wanted the crowd to admire him. He thought of a story he would tell his friends later. He imagined them praising his strength and courage. He did not think about respect, only about attention and pride. This moment was about ego more than skill for him. Arun finally spoke, his voice calm and low but carrying authority. He told Rin that skill without control was not real strength. The words were simple but hit Rin in a way he did not expect. He stopped moving for the first time and listened carefully. The crowd also felt the weight of the words and stayed quiet. Rin tried to respond with a clever smile or a joke. But Arun's calm eyes made him hesitate. He had never faced someone who did not react to his strength. He realized that control was more powerful than a fast kick. This thought began to shake his confidence slowly. The guard stepped 1 foot closer in a controlled and respectful way. He did not raise his hand or show any aggression. Every movement of Arun was measured and disciplined. Rin could feel the difference between skill and wisdom. He realized that skill alone could not solve every problem. People in the crowd began to notice Rin's hesitation. They sensed that the young fighter was facing something he did not expect. Whispers grew softer as everyone watched the guard and the man with the black belt. Children were pulled closer to their parents for safety and guidance. Older people watched with understanding, knowing lessons were being learned in front of them. Rin shifted his weight from 1 foot to the other, trying to regain confidence. He wanted to show he was still in control. He wanted to lift his leg and strike again but felt a strange restraint inside. It was a feeling he had never known in his years of training. Doubt and respect mixed together in a way that confused him. Arun spoke again, his words soft but full of meaning. He said that every action has consequences and that true power is knowing when to act. Rin felt the truth in these words but did not fully understand it. He realized he had underestimated the guard and overestimated himself. For the first time, he felt that his pride could lead to failure. The guard's calmness did not come from weakness or fear. It came from years of training, discipline, and responsibility. Rin saw a man who knew his strength and also knew when not to use it. This lesson was different from anything Rin had learned before. He had always believed that strength meant winning every fight. Rin took a deep breath and tried to think of his next move. He wanted to show courage, but courage without control now felt foolish. He looked around at the crowd and saw eyes filled with curiosity and concern. He realized that people were watching more than just a fight. They were watching how he would handle his mistakes and pride. Arun continued to speak, explaining that protecting others is stronger than hurting them. He said that a person who can control his power is greater than a person who cannot. Rin listened quietly, feeling a strange respect forming inside him. He had never felt respect for someone who did not try to fight him. Now he saw that true strength included patience, wisdom, and responsibility. The crowd stayed quiet, sensing the importance of the moment. No one moved or interrupted the lesson being taught. Even the guards nearby remained still and disciplined. The palace seemed to hold its breath as Rin's pride slowly met reality. He felt a change beginning inside him, though he could not yet name it. Rin lowered his head slightly and realized he had acted too quickly. He thought of how easy it would have been to get angry and strike again. He now understood that anger and pride could lead to mistakes. Arun's calm response had shown him a new kind of power. It was power that did not come from speed or strength alone. Rin's heart beat slower as he thought about his actions. He began to see that being untouchable was not about skill alone. It was about respect, patience, and knowing when to act. The crowd felt the lesson too, sensing that Rin's confidence was shifting. Even the children watching began to understand that strength was more than fighting. Arun stepped back slightly and gestured for Rin to stand still. He said nothing more, but his presence spoke volumes. Rin felt a mix of fear, respect, and curiosity for the first time. He understood that he had crossed a line but had not been punished. Instead, he had been taught a lesson that would stay with him forever. Rin's pride no longer felt light and easy. It felt heavy with understanding and responsibility. He realized that being untouchable was an illusion. True power came from control, patience, and respect for others. For the first time, Rin felt that his black belt was not only a symbol of skill but also a reminder of responsibility. The crowd slowly began to breathe again, sensing the tension lifting. People whispered quietly among themselves about what had happened. They felt that they had witnessed something important and rare. Rin remained still, learning a lesson that would change him forever. Arun returned to his position among the guards, calm and steady, as if nothing had happened. Rin looked at the palace and realized that skill alone could not make him superior. He felt a new desire to learn not just fighting but discipline and wisdom. He understood that a black belt was more than strength, it was control and respect. Rin's heart felt lighter and heavier at the same time. He knew that this was only the beginning of his true journey. Rin left the palace slowly, feeling the weight of his thoughts pressing on him like never before. Every step he took made him think about what had happened with the guard. He realized that the pride he had carried for years was not as strong as he believed. The lesson of patience and control stayed in his mind, and he could not shake it. Even the streets of the town felt different now, as if they were reminding him of responsibility. He walked past small shops and narrow lanes where children played and people worked. Rin noticed the way people moved with purpose and care, and he thought about the choices he had made. He remembered the calm eyes of Arun and the stillness of the guard around him. It was not fear that kept Rin thinking, it was respect for something greater than strength. He understood that strength without control was empty and even dangerous. Rin stopped near a fountain where water flowed quietly, and he watched it move with patience. The flowing water seemed to teach him something he could not yet explain. He thought about the black belt he wore and the years of training it represented. He realized that skill alone did not make a person great or untouchable. True greatness, he understood, came from wisdom, patience, and the way one treated others. Rin's mind went back to the moment when he kicked the guard. He remembered the silence that followed and the calm authority in Arun's stance. He felt a mixture of fear and admiration that made his chest tighten. He could not believe how much one moment had changed his understanding of strength. For the first time he felt small but not weak. He felt aware and willing to learn. The next day Rin returned to the dojo with a different feeling in his heart. He practiced with more focus and less pride in his movements. He thought about how skill without understanding could bring harm. His teacher noticed the change in Rin and nodded silently. Even the older students sensed the calm determination replacing arrogance. Rin practiced punches and kicks with precision but also with mindfulness. Every movement reminded him of the lesson learned from Arun. He imagined facing situations with patience instead of rushing into conflict. He realized that controlling anger and pride was harder than executing a perfect kick. The dojo became a place of learning beyond skill. It became a place to understand discipline. One afternoon Rin visited the palace again, but this time with respect in his steps. He wanted to see the guard who had taught him a lesson without striking. Arun noticed him and gave a small nod of recognition. Rin bowed slightly and felt humility in the gesture. It was not a show of submission but a sign that he had understood the value of respect. The guard spoke softly and reminded Rin that skill could only be used for protection. He said that strength without thought could lead to disaster and sorrow. Rin listened carefully and promised to remember the lesson forever. He felt that words had more power than any fight he had ever won. The calmness in Arun's voice stayed with him and guided his thoughts. Rin began helping others in the town with small acts of kindness. He guided children learning martial arts and showed patience with beginners. He taught not just movements but also the importance of control and respect. People began to notice the change in Rin and they admired his calm strength. He felt that being strong was no longer about showing off but about helping others. Every day Rin practiced with care and thought about the lessons learned at the palace. He remembered the crowd, the palace walls, and the stillness of Arun. He realized that true skill was not measured by how hard one could hit. It was measured by how wisely one used strength and how kindly one treated others. The black belt he wore became a symbol of responsibility and learning. Rin also reflected on his mistakes with his friends and shared what he had learned. He told them that arrogance could make even the strongest person look weak. His friends listened and began to understand the difference between skill and wisdom. Rin felt proud, but in a quiet way that did not disturb others. He understood that true pride came from learning and growing, not from showing off. One evening Rin walked alone to the hill overlooking the town. The sun was setting and the sky turned colors of gold and red. He thought about the path he had walked from arrogance to understanding. He realized that every choice he made could lead to growth or regret. The wind seemed to whisper lessons and Rin felt ready to listen. He remembered the moment of the kick and how Arun did not react with anger. He thought about the strength of patience and the power of calmness. Rin understood that learning was a journey without an end. Every day offered an opportunity to grow stronger in skill and character. He promised himself to follow the path of wisdom and responsibility. Rin returned to the dojo with renewed energy and focus. He taught younger students with patience and showed respect for their learning. He practiced with mindfulness and thought about the consequences of every move. The town slowly noticed the change in Rin and people began to trust his guidance. He felt that respect earned through wisdom was far stronger than fear gained through strength. Days passed and Rin became known not just for his black belt but for his calm heart. People asked him for advice and guidance in conflicts. He remembered Arun's lessons and spoke with words of understanding. He realized that true power was not in winning fights but in guiding others. The sense of pride he felt was quiet and steady, not loud and empty. Rin often visited the palace to see Arun and discuss lessons in patience and skill. They practiced together, and Rin learned more about discipline and control. Every encounter reminded Rin that learning never ended. He thought about how much he had grown from a proud fighter to a mindful student. The palace walls became a place of learning and respect rather than challenge. Rin's journey continued with focus, humility, and understanding. He realized that every action mattered and that strength had to be balanced with wisdom. His black belt was a symbol of years of learning and a reminder of the lessons taught by Arun. The town saw Rin as a leader not because of skill alone but because of his heart. He understood that true greatness was in the way one used strength and guided others. Rin walked through the quiet streets of the town early in the morning feeling calm and thoughtful. The sun had just begun to rise and the light painted the walls of the houses in soft colors. He carried no pride in his step, only awareness of the journey he had taken. Every lesson he had learned from Arun, and his own mistakes stayed in his mind. He understood that true strength was in balance, patience, and careful choice. He reached the dojo and saw the students practicing quietly under the guidance of their teacher. Rin joined them not to show skill but to share understanding and encouragement. He watched the younger students struggle with their movements and offered gentle advice. His words were patient and his gestures careful so they could learn without fear. He realized that teaching others brought a satisfaction greater than any victory in combat. Later that day Rin visited the palace once more to see Arun. The guard greeted him with a nod and calm eyes that reminded Rin of the first lesson. They walked together in the palace gardens where flowers and trees created a peaceful space. Rin spoke about what he had learned about patience, respect, and the careful use of strength. Arun listened and smiled quietly, knowing the lesson had taken root in Rin's heart. Rin told the guard about the children he had helped and the students he guided in the dojo. He described how he had learned to control his pride and understand the importance of restraint. Arun nodded and said that learning was a path that never ended and that every day offered new lessons. Rin felt gratitude and humility in his heart, realizing that he had grown in ways he never imagined. He knew that the black belt he wore was more than skill, it was responsibility and honor. After leaving the palace, Rin continued walking through the town, noticing small details he had ignored before. The laughter of children playing in the streets reminded him that joy was important in life. The hard work of merchants and farmers reminded him that effort and patience were valuable. Every interaction he had was an opportunity to practice understanding and respect. He realized that the world was full of lessons waiting for those willing to learn. Rin spent time helping people in the town with small acts of kindness. He carried water for the elderly and helped repair roofs for families in need. Every action was done with awareness and care and not to show his strength. He noticed how people responded with gratitude and warmth and how it changed the atmosphere. Rin felt a quiet pride in the difference he could make through thoughtfulness and effort. One afternoon Rin returned to the hill overlooking the town to think and reflect. The wind moved gently through the trees and the setting sun filled the sky with golden light. He thought about how much he had changed since the day of the first challenge at the palace. He understood that his journey of learning was far from over and that each day brought new lessons. The memory of Arun's calm strength guided him like a steady light in his mind. Rin began teaching mindfulness along with martial arts in the dojo. He showed students how to breathe and focus and how to respect themselves and others. He emphasized that skill alone could not make a person strong or wise. The students learned not just movements but the importance of patience and thoughtfulness. Rin felt satisfaction in watching them grow and understood that guidance was a form of strength. The town slowly began to notice Rin's transformation, and people came to seek his advice. They respected him not because of fear, but because of his calmness and understanding. Rin shared stories of learning from mistakes and the importance of control and patience. He encouraged people to think before acting and to consider the effects of their choices. Through these lessons he realized that leadership was more about care than power. Rin often returned to the palace to practice with Arun. They trained in quiet spaces focusing on discipline, respect, and control. Every session reminded Rin that strength was not about striking but about knowing when to move and when to wait. He felt a sense of peace in these moments and understood that true mastery included wisdom. Arun continued to guide him not with punishment but with example and calm instruction. Rin also reflected on his own journey and wrote down thoughts and lessons he wanted to remember. He recorded moments of failure and success and the feelings each experience brought. He understood that reflection was a part of learning and that awareness could guide action. Rin found that his own mind could be trained as much as his body. Through reflection he discovered that understanding himself was as important as understanding others. Days turned into weeks, and Rin's reputation in the town grew not as a fighter, but as a teacher and guide. People sought his counsel for disputes, and young students admired his patience and care. Rin understood that influence could be gained through wisdom, not force. He realized that helping others develop self-control and respect was a greater achievement than winning any fight. His life began to feel full of purpose and meaning in a way it never had before. One morning Rin stood at the dojo entrance looking at students practicing quietly. He remembered the fear he had felt when he first struck a rune and the lesson that changed him. He understood that every action had consequences and that every choice mattered. His black belt felt lighter now but carried deeper meaning, responsibility, and honor. He realized that being untouchable was not about skill, it was about the heart and mind. Rin decided to create a small program in the town for children to learn patience, control, and respect. He worked with elders and teachers to guide young minds in the principles he had learned. He wanted to pass on lessons that would help others avoid mistakes he had made. Every day he practiced teaching kindness as well as skill. He saw children grow confident but humble and strong but aware of others. The palace became a place of continued learning for Rin, not of challenge or fear. He visited often and practiced with a rune and reflected on his growth. Every visit reminded him that discipline, patience, and understanding were the foundation of true strength. He felt a sense of calm joy in knowing that his life had direction and meaning. He understood that the journey of learning was lifelong and every day was an opportunity. Rin life slowly transformed from prideful fighter to mindful teacher and guide. He understood the value of patience, respect, and the careful use of strength. The black belt he wore symbolized skill, but also the lessons learned and shared. People in the town admired him for his wisdom and calmness, rather than fear or strength. Rin felt fulfilled knowing that he had learned what it meant to be truly strong and responsible. Evenings Rin would sit on the hill watching the town below and reflect on the day. He remembered the first encounter with a rune and the lesson it taught him. He realized that life offered constant opportunities to learn and grow. Every choice he made could strengthen or weaken character. Rin understood that true power was not in fighting but in guiding, respecting, and protecting others. Rin's journey continued with focus and awareness in every step. He felt gratitude for the lessons learned and the chance to teach others. He understood that skill without wisdom was incomplete and pride alone was dangerous. Through patience and guidance, he became a model of true strength for the town. Rin finally understood that being untouchable was not about force but about understanding the heart and mind.